You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
You can put it on the board. Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, those massive and cowboy-cut, tomahawk-cut ribeyes. Probably the best I ever had, and likely be the best you ever had as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for more information for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on radio, on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports, and all of our independents from coast to coast. Plus, everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television affiliates and Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets from coast to coast, as well as everybody on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and X. You can call it Twitter if you'd like, and YouTube as well. So, you know, folks, there's been this circulating image around. And really what it is an image of the last 3 Super Bowls. And people are saying, well, you know, the hint of the teams that are supposed to be at the Super Bowl are hidden in the colors for the year's Super Bowl logo. And look, I'd say to a degree, yes, maybe there's something there, but is it coincidental? Possibly. But do I think the league has fixed games? Absolutely, I believe that. And I know I'm not the only one. That's really starting to pick up a lot of steam as we see calls that we just can't explain occur on the field of play, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But then again, who are the cheapest people employed on the field during the field of play? That would likely be what? The referees, right? Because the players, boy, they're awfully expensive these days. So you wonder, are they driving an agenda to make sure that the teams that are, I guess, sharing colors, or maybe one color from one team, one color from another team, are we seeing a reddish, maroonish, and a purple as the Super Bowl 58 logo, and the colors seem to be those colors? Are we seeing the 49ers would represent that color, and the purple, of course, being from the AFC, being the Ravens? You know, somebody brought this to my attention several weeks ago. I said, you know, there really aren't enough samples to really prove what you're stating because, of course, like anything else, the minimum sample size is 9. We've learned that in our statistics class from way back where you went to this university or that college or whatever the heck it is. I remember that, but at the end of the day, the only thing we've seen are the last few Super Bowls. Is this a new thing? Is it a new trend? I don't know. We won't really know now, I guess, for another 6 years, because it would be 6 plus 3 of the last 3 consecutive years if this year holds true with those colors, because we saw it with Philadelphia and Kansas City the year before, and we saw it the year before as well. So you ask yourself, is this a thing? But I guess we really can't draw a conclusion, a bona fide conclusion, with any statistical data to prove it for another 6 years, right? Because if you have a minimum sample size of 9, well, and let's face it, if you have, 88% of the amount, that would mean beyond a reasonable doubt, that would be the case. So we don't really know, but it sure seems a little bit eerie that these things could be happening. I don't know. I mean, everybody has their opinion on it, and I'm one that says, follow the money because the money knows all. When you look at these games, folks, the money will tell you. And this is from placeyourbet.vegas. Check them out at placeyourbet.vegas. And that's Sal the Bookmaker, yours truly. If you look at the win percentage against the point spread, all those prognostication services and all this other stuff. Look, folks, I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And there are things that I have seen that I can't explain, other things that I cannot explain. But the one consistent thing with all of this is that the money knows all. Now, I had a down week. And out of this from this week and last week, I ended up picking 8 out of 10 games right against the line. 8 out of 10 correct, when our moving average is about 8.5% out of 10, which there is nobody that I know of in this prognostication business. These wins are all documented. So you ask yourself for, rushing up on 300 picks. Am I wrong with this? I don't know. I don't really think so, because one would say, okay, what's your minimum sample size? We've already met that. And why am I talking about this? Because the money will tell you which way to bet in these games. Now, if you don't know how to read the money, that's what this is really about. Then maybe you want to check out placeyourbet.vegas and get a little bit more information. But then again, how many bettors just go to their favorite fantasy, whatever the heck it is, or their local app on their phone, and they say, well, I see these commercials on TV, so maybe I'm going to bet on games or some garbage like that. These are the things that we tend to see over and over, because now you have from television and film stars to sports people, they're all touting the same thing. This tout service, that tout service. And at the end of the day, these services typically give away half to one group of people, like one side of the game, let's say Team A, and then they give Team B to the other half. So they have a perfect track record with one control group, and then they do the same thing the next week. They'll split them and split them and split them. It's almost like getting half-lives. Why does this matter? Because all of your hard-earned money that you either may be betting, may be contemplating betting, or people you know are betting, they could be winning. Most people lose in these things. At the end of the day, with all of this, then when I say the money knows all, the money will tell you which way to bet. And if you know how to read the opening lines all the way to the action through the week, all the way to the closing lines, we're just using football in this case, then you have a better idea of which way, if you are going to bet, which way to bet. And so in many cases, you ask yourself, well, wait a minute. What is the weather report? What about injured players? And you could say, well, geez, with Buffalo and Kansas City, that really had a play in things. There's a bigger play going on there, folks, in my opinion. But what about, who is in the doghouse with the coaching staff? Who is starting? Who isn't starting? Who will come off the bench? What about, I don't care who is hanging out with this one's wife or girlfriend or whatever. None of that stuff matters, because the money knows all. And here's your first hint, folks. Take a look at the opening line of every game. Watch the action through the week, but you've got to know what you're looking for. And then you'll see a big bump in the line at some point. For example, the Super Bowl is a perfect case. If you see the line move in a casino, for example, from maybe 7 points to 7.5 or something like this, somebody came in and dropped anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million on that particular game, which made the line move. So the casino has to hedge against that, and what they'll do is they'll move the line accordingly. So the odds makers already have a pretty good idea of which way these games are going to go, and all they're trying to do is hedge their bets. There's so much money in TV contracts and casino betting that it really doesn't matter too much as to the outcomes of these games. And folks, I have to tell you, these games, in my opinion, they are largely compromised. In fact, I can't tell you which person, but we had somebody on this show that has won a Super Bowl in the past, and they said that these games are 100% absolutely fixed. I'm not going to tell you which one. You're going to have to go through a couple thousand shows to figure out who it was. But they said it point blank on this show. These games are fixed. So, why am I killing your excitement? I'm not really, because you really don't know unless you're behind the scenes, so to say. You just have to flip a coin and say, well, am I going to bet on this one or that one? Or you turn to placeyourbet.vegas and find out which way the money is moving and why it's moving. That's the only thing that really matters. So am I talking in circles? No, not at all. You look at the Ravens score. or the Ravens go up 34-10. They roll over the Houston Texans. Not really a game there. And according to the colors theory, they're supposed to be there. Green Bay gave the 49ers a big game, but conveniently, not really sure how Deebo Samuel hurt himself. I think it was in the first quarter. Not really sure, but that game was a lot closer than the 9.5, 10.5 point spread, depending on the casino. But ultimately, that game had the same line as the Ravens game. And then you look at the Buccaneers and Lions game, which was destined to go over the total of, I think it was 49.5. And Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, was about a 6-point favorite in that game. Another very, very easy pick. The one I had wrong was the Bills and the Chiefs. And it was a fundamental mistake on my part, looking at maybe the Bills would be able to overcome the stardom of Travis Kelce's girlfriend, of Taylor Swift. But apparently that's not the case, because I believe that there's a bigger agenda for the Chiefs, at least, of course, to make the championship game, which they did. So they'll be playing the Baltimore Ravens. And so I think it's more of a political influence, because all those Swifties out there will see her on TV over and over and over. Hey, let's support her. Let's support these people. And let's vote a particular way, because she has already declared or necessarily shown her allegiance towards a particular group or candidate, so to say, in politics. And I believe that's why the Chiefs are at least going to be in the championship game. But ultimately, according to the colors theory, the purple would belong to Baltimore, believe it or not. And of course, the 49ers would probably end the Lions' run going to the Super Bowl. So the Lions making the championship series or the championship game, that's very exciting for them. But I think that's the way it's supposed to go, folks. We're going to be back in just a few minutes here on The Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. This segment brought to you in part by the Chicago Food Favorites page on Facebook. Check that out, folks. It's a fun place to go and talk about your favorite foods. If you love foods from Chicagoland, whether it's, I don't know, Italian beef sandwiches or great pizza or hot dogs or some great bakery items, you never know. Could be great steak, great barbecue. I don't know. It's just fun. There's no incentive for us to say anything other than this. It's just fun because we don't get paid for it. It's just a fun forum to share your ideas, and maybe you like to compare the Philly cheesesteak sandwich to the Chicago's Italian beef sandwich, whatever. It's all fun. Make sure that you join Chicago Food Favorites. It's free. Everything is free, and it's just for fun. That's on Facebook, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I believe the San Francisco 49ers, too. Also, welcome in to everybody that may be listening in Southern California with our friends over throughout the greater Los Angeles basin, as well as even those up in the Bay Area on our other independents that we work with right here in Las Vegas, as well as Atlanta, Georgia, WDJY, Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, that's home of the Atlanta Braves, WBGY in Southwest Florida. Whole bunch of points in between, folks, and believe me, we are everywhere. You can't get away from us. So there's been this ongoing discussion. People say, well, the NFL hits a lot harder than the NHL. So I've been having this conversation, in fact, with one of our friends here on the Sports Circus who has been, basically spent a lot of years in the National Football League hitting people. And he said, no, the NFL hits a lot harder than the NHL. I mean, look, there's a toughness issue, whatever. I mean, look, this is something that everybody at some point has reported on. And so I took this wonderful piece here from the Bleacher Report. And they say the topic is simply this: which sport is rougher and more physical, hockey or football? The fans of each sport think that their favorites are tougher than the other guys. But it goes way beyond that, however. The sports have different rules that give insight into how they view themselves. Now, of course, the biggest difference, as you certainly are aware, in these rules is the age of draft eligibility. Players cannot be drafted into the NHL until they're at least 3 years removed from high school. This is all but guarantees that they're at least 21 years of age, and this would make them more physically and mentally mature than their NHL counterparts, who can be drafted at the age of 18 and move immediately into the league. However, the NFL has no minor league system to speak of aside from college, which limits the amount of time you spend there. So, if an NHL player needs extra work to bulk up or toughen up, he's sent down to the minors to work and get stronger, whereas the NFL players may very well be cut right there and then. And the differences mean that the NFL tries to make you tougher before you enter the league, but the NHL can keep toughening you up at the higher age, making you even stronger when you do finally get caught up. So, on to the game itself. Which sports is actually rougher to play? Well, mind you, this is from the Bleacher Report, before we get started, they want to immediately disassociate this discussion from an on-field or on-ice deaths, right? So they don't want any liability, whatever. I get it. Okay, so Bleacher Report, we're not going to hold you responsible. They say that these are extremely rare in sports and even not tough sports. All sports at professional levels are tough, have a history of death at some point or another. So people bring up the memories of this one and that one, whatever. But these are the exceptions to the rule. We're not going to go there. So they say, let's start with hockey. And of course, they say they're hockey fans, which I am too. Nonetheless, hockey players play on ice, which is much, much, much harder than sod. In hockey, the players are standing on razor blades and carrying ultra light composite sticks. A man can skate much faster than he can run, which means that a full speed collision has more velocity on skates than it does on shoes. That's a very good point. Hockey players also have the boards, the dashers, and the glass, all of which see contact constantly through the game. The goal consists of unpadded steel post, which can easily be run into. All of this doesn't even bring up that little piece of frozen, vulcanized rubber flying around at speeds exceeding 90 to 100 miles an hour. So, all this, mind you, happens during a game where if you do get hit, there's not necessarily a whistle. You must get up and play and basically get out there without stoppage and without assistance. Now let's move on to football, they say. Football players may not move at the speed of hockey players, and they're not carrying sticks or wearing cleats. They are, however, wearing spikes, not really, which can catch a calf or a foot or much more frequently than a skate can. But there's more to toughness than simply equipment used by players. As the Bleacher Report said, hockey players have boards. Getting checked into the boards hurts. However, the boards act as a shock absorber that some football fans say. In most cases, the energy of the force involved into a hit into the boards is transferred through the player getting hit into the boards themselves. This means that hits into the boards in many ways are preferable to open ice hits, that the board cushions more than bruises. Well, in football, there are no shock absorbing boards. Even hits in an open ice, they hit too. So, the grass used in football stadiums isn't as hard as the ice. However, it's not exactly playground-safe rubber mulch either. It's a tough surface, and even tougher on a field made on artificial turf in lieu of grass. Considering the lack of lower body padding used by football players is hard enough just to hurt the same. So, they say, at 6'9" and 277 pounds, Zdeno Chara, he was the largest player in the NHL at that time. And Derek Boogaard is 6'7", 270 pounds. Hal Gill, 6'7", 250 pounds. These are big boys, but are more than exception to the rule. Most hockey players are somewhere around 6'2". And of course, some of the tough guys are maybe just a little bit bigger. Doesn't really matter. But meanwhile, the NFL is home to players like Jonathan Ogden, those kind of guys, right? The 6'9", 349 pounder, 445 pounds, whatever the heck it is. The point is the average lineman is bigger than the NHL's average player. But the speed of football is not nearly the speed of hockey. Now, as for skating versus running, a man can skate faster than he can run, but a man on skates can't turn as quickly and is therefore easier to avoid. A man on his feet is harder to dodge. At the level, of course, of play that we see in the NHL, stopping and turning on a dime is not so uncommon. However, it is still faster. And to make such a directional change on foot, well, let's face it, you could do that. So, Bleacher Report had mentioned earlier that hockey hits don't necessarily mean stoppage in play. In most cases, in football, it does. In hockey, tough hits into the boards, bone-jarring open ice hits, etc. look impressive, but they're not the main focus of the game. This can be seen in the average number of hits per game, which for an NHL team is between 20 and 30 hits. A hockey player may play an entire game without being hit. Not very likely, but it normally does happen. Well, not really. One could watch an entire period without little physical action. I don't really necessarily believe that, what Bleacher Report says, but they also say in football, however, a hit is guaranteed on every play. From a linesman hustling into a position to a linebacker stopping to run, a rushing quarterback, there will be a hit. And yes, they can stop and pick themselves up afterwards, but they will also get hit. Also, an NHL hit is usually body hitting body. Maybe a stick or an elbow get involved as well. A football player making a tackle can hit, grab, wrestle, jostle, or do whatever it takes to bring a man down, and getting thrown to the ground, they say, is a little bit rougher than just getting knocked to the ice. I don't necessarily believe that, but it is what it is. So far, Bleacher Report, they have seen football ahead. However, They also believe that hockey is tougher, and here's why. Hockey isn't trying to put up a tough image. Hockey doesn't overdo it. The league protects its players and goes on with the game. The NFL, NCAA, and other football leagues seem to desire the press and the drama that accompanies injuries. In the NHL, an injured player is taken off the ice and tends to go to the locker room right away. After a brief stoppage, they get off the ice and play resumes. In football, a hurt player is tended off the field. It seems to take forever and make any progress when there's an injury. And of course, Bleacher Report says they understand the safety comes first, but with today's technology, there's no reason that it should take so long aside from the desire of those in charge to put the thought into the heads of those watching. This is so dangerous, is what they say. The NHL, or the NFL, and other leagues seem to have a toughness inferiority complex, which makes them desire to show what really things are tough and that injuries aren't minor no matter how minor they actually happen to be. Oh, and hockey allows fighting. That has to be worth something as well for the debate. In fact, when we get into it, we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw in, how about rugby? So we'll have a discussion on the NHL, the NFL, and rugby. Which one has the most bone-crushing hits? Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Lots more to come. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more.
800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. That's 800-957-6209.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. This segment brought to you by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, our press releases. Got a couple of those coming out soon. Also, make sure you check out our partners page. One of those partners is Al's #1 Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago. In Chicago's Little Italy. And if you can't make it there to get some great Chicago Italian beef, check them out at goldbelly.com. Just type in Al's Beef at goldbelly.com and you can get all the information you need there to pick up your supply of Al's Italian beef. Yes! It's a personal favorite, folks. Again, we don't get nothing for saying this. It's just one of our partners. They've been with us for years and years and years. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. TV, radio, all of our affiliates. Thanks for joining us. Everybody on social as well. Thanks for joining us. Last segment, we're talking about the toughness between hockey and football. The football people say, well, you know, it's a lot tougher to play football. No, it's not. As a matter of fact, we even had Bleacher Report's article that we were referencing. Now we've got another follow-up here from Bleacher Report. This is kind of cool. And this is about the most bone-crushing hits in sports. Now, is it rugby, the National Football League, or the National Hockey League? So again, Bleacher Report, this is good stuff, folks. You never really get to hear this stuff, and this is from a neutral party, so they don't have a dog in the fight. They're just talking about it. So they say there are hundreds of controversial debates that linger in the sports world with no resolution in sight. Who is the best heavyweight title? Who has happened to have, let's face it, what would have happened if Michael Jordan never retired and played basketball? Well, I think I have a different theory on that, but nonetheless. Is Barry Sanders the best running back of all time? Well, you never know. While these questions may never find answers, the power that have been assigned to Bleacher Report in their own minds, according to this article here, it goes depths and depths into the internet to discover which sport hits the hardest. Is it rugby, where the players have no pads or protection whatsoever? That's a pretty good theory. I mean, the NFL used to be that way a long time ago. They wore the leather hats, right? So you couldn't have helmet-to-helmet hits or head-to-head hits. How about the National Football League as it stands, which produces some of the biggest hits, fastest athletes in the world? Don't know about that, because when they do the combine, they look fast, but when they are on the field, only a few of them really look fast. What about hockey? The sport places fierce competitors flying in all directions on the ice who are mostly Canadian. Who knows? Not really sure what that has to do with anything, but it is a Canadian sport like baseball is an American sport. So, Bleacher Report says, we will go to the tape and do the research needed to get to the bottom of this debate. And unfortunately, two sports will go home unhappy. So they say, how about a little perspective? First, football and rugby. With this installment of Sports Science, to get a better idea of what goes into a football and rugby hit and what type of impact it has on the body. They say, how about some perspective on hockey? They've got all kinds of these stuff. They have different episodes of Sports Science showing what it feels like to take a hit. And by the way, folks, even ESPN has come up with a study that showed hockey players, and hockey hits nonetheless, hit 17% harder than football hits. That's the average hit. The average football hit is 17% less impactful than hockey. Now, that was from ESPN. You can go ahead and Google that and find that. And, of course, rugby. Here's the tail of the tape. Let's think about this. Originated back in 1845. 13 teams, full contact, and they have a rugby union. They say rugby is not nearly as popular in the United States as it is in the UK and its territories, and is influenced. While this original game is not played by many in the States, American football can be categorized as a direct descendant of rugby. And of course, rugby is hard-hitting and requires a combination of speed, accuracy, toughness, and strength that is common in several sports as well. So, the best part of the rawness is the actual game itself. It is a raw game. There are no pads. And it's set in rich tradition. It has deep historical significance to those who watch and play. So, I don't know. I mean, can a hit be heard from the stands? They say whenever you can hear a hit from the stands and feel the impact, you know it was pretty serious. Those who play the game would know better than I, being Bleacher Report, and about the lateness of the hit. But there was no holding back there either. Why doesn't that kid have a football scholarship is what they ask. There's a blindsided part to it. Well, what about the old happy feet thing? Well, they always tell you to keep your eyes on the ball and then deal with the defender. Unfortunately, for that particular person that got hit, he did neither of the two. So there are a lot of bits and pieces about this that people don't seem to pay attention to when it comes to deciding toughness. I mean, how can you let things happen? Well, he was about to get hit, so he passed it along to his buddy, basically made a business decision. We see a lot of that in the National Football League. So, but you got to love how people just get up, pass the ball to their teammates in rugby, and just keep the drive going. You got to love that. There's not a lot of stop play like there is in football. And so there's that ongoing tendency to persevere. And of course, when you think about these big hits that send opponents crashing to the ground, well, they just get right up and then they give the ball to another teammate, then they just keep on going. So is there an unstoppable force against an immovable object? Well, look, other teams know that it's going to require more than one person technically being hit. So a lot of stuff happens, and while it still does make a little bit of sense, it's not any easier when it comes to them making a decision with a head of steam and they're on a mission. So you ask yourself, can you say horse collar in rugby? Not necessarily, but they do have it now in football. So I don't really like that idea, and Bleacher Report doesn't either. So the bigger question is, I mean, who hits harder? Who knows at this point? I mean, look, rib shots, broken ribs and whatnot, there's no protection for these rugby players whatsoever. I mean, me personally, I believe rugby is a much, much tougher sport to play than football. So let's take a look at hockey real quick. Originated in 1917, 30 teams, And of course, they say, Bleacher, hockey is a sport that was born in Canada and imported for American enjoyment. And we have certainly molded the game for our own, but still is a Canadian pastime, not unlike baseball it is for us, as I mentioned previously. Though it is underappreciated, it is a great sport that includes up and down pace of basketball, the scoring of soccer, the toughness of football, and the skill of baseball. Bleacher Report says they'll go as far as to say that playoff hockey is the best playoffs in all sports. And I would absolutely agree with that 100. And look, they have true Ironmen who played into their mid-40s and enjoy every second doing it. And the sport is a great joy and also one of the toughest in the world. I would argue it's clearly the toughest. You have bone-crushing hits. You have, wow, I'm sure that this does not go unnoticed by colleagues, where people get knocked down once in a while, they get right back up. Then they end up getting into a fight. What happens? They go off for a few minutes, and what do? They come right back out and do it again after a 5-minute penalty. So you have to ask yourself, besides the impact of a hit, driving somebody so hard that they flip over the boards and show that they're still a man's man, and there will be no retaliation of any kind. That's hard to do, folks. Really hard to do. And you got guys in hockey like Dion Phaneuf, just puts enormous hits on people in the past. And there have just been so many people, so many hard hitters in hockey. It's crazy. And so there's a video circulating from a while back, and even Bleacher Report said when they saw the video of Dion Phaneuf, his hit on Dennis Hamel, they couldn't believe it. They could not also help but laughing, but Phaneuf not only hit Hamel, but he threw him across the ice on top of it. And this is kind of commonplace, folks. This is stuff that we see. I mean, there's nothing cooler than a guy inflicting pain and making it seem like he completely is unfazed by it. And Hamel's body, of course, contorting, rolling around across the ice, whatever. Guy gets up, let's do it again. And that is a toughness that you just can't teach. Guys getting knocked out. Darcy Tucker knocking out Sammy Kapanen, etc., etc. Lucic hits Mike Van Ryn through the glass. The glass shatters. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Cal Clutterbuck gives Brad Richards the business. When I say the business, folks, listen, this is a whole different kind of business. Remember, these guys will do what? They will drop the gloves and fight, whereas football, they won't do that. They got all that extra padding on and crap like that. So you have to ask yourself, football, okay, been around since 1920, 32 teams. Yes, it's American sport, And they say, well, Ray Lewis had some hard hits. Of course he did. Ray's a Hall of Famer. Brian Dawkins, same thing. And so does Shante Spencer, Deshaun Jackson. He gets hammered, right? So you have all these big hits. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, which one is the toughest one out of all of them? In fact, you know what we're going to do? When we come back from break, we're going to go over what Bleacher Report says, and I think what the masses say about the toughness and the biggest, most bone-crushing hits between football, rugby, and hockey are in just a few minutes right here on the Sports Circus. Folks, this is fun stuff. You know why it's fun? Because A, we say it is, and number two, who doesn't like going to a sporting game, some kind of an event, and seeing big hits happen left, right, and center? I don't know about you, but I like to see it. I like to go to a fight and see a hockey game break out. Something to that effect, if you know what I mean. All right, folks, back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. It is a circus, and we prove it every day. Don't go anywhere.
Can't beat fun at the old ballpark, friends. Hi, pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I don't know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go and buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you're going to get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize. There's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has a Barbary over to first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think if there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch, bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. 1 ball, 1 strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said that I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about a congressman being crooked, here's a pitch foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products that don't do what they represent to do?
There's a smash to Squires. He's got it. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. We're going to the bottom of the 7th now to score. All tied up. Milwaukee 4, the White Sox 4. Hey! Everybody! All right, Nancy, let me hear you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ground. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back for its root for the White Sox. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And it is. Holy cow. This crowd is wild.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Al Bubba Baker, quarterback breaker and the rib maker.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. A big thanks for everybody tuning in for the years and years and years of this show. We have done a couple of thousand shows. We're into our 8th year, and when we were told that we were good enough by certain stations, we just kept persevering. We got better and better and better. And guess what, folks? Here we are many years later, outlasting damn near every local show, regional show, and most national shows, and we are picking up steam and getting stronger and stronger. Yes! Lots of great guests. Check out our guest schedule at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great guests coming up. Like I said in the last segment, got some press releases coming out too. Can't really spoil the surprise, but I will tell you that we're adding somebody for entertainment and somebody for one of the 4 major food groups of professional sports. Impact people bring impact people. That's just how it works, folks. All right, thanks for joining us again. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, back here in Las Vegas. Left off in the last segment talking about the most bone-crushing hits, whether it was rugby, football, or hockey. So we cited the Bleacher Report for this, just like on which one was tougher, which sport is tougher, that was football or hockey. And in this one, now we're coming up to the voting finals here. From the Bleacher Report, what they say, this is their analysis, between most bone-crushing hits, whether it's rugby, football, or hockey. So, the second runner-up, they say, is rugby. And I'm not so sure I like that one. I would have to argue that it was somebody else or something else. Anyway, they say why rugby did not win. Rugby is a great sport, according to them, that requires an incredible amount of stamina and toughness. That being said, the hits are not nearly as intense as football or hockey. And they're trying to get the guy down, but it's more important to do so in an effective way than in a flashy one. Due to the fact that it is such a rugged sport, it is a grind compared to football, where the game is defined by only a few moments. The hits in rugby are awesome, but they are not the hardest. Don't know about that. They continue on with what they go home with. Nothing. Nobody remembers who came in 3rd place. And you know what? I absolutely agree with that. And of course, the first runner-up is, wait for it, it's football. Yes! Which means hockey has the most bone-crushing hits. But what they say about football, being the Bleacher Report, why football did not win. Bleacher Report says everyone takes a deep breath. Okay, everyone take a deep breath. Have you relaxed now? Then they will proceed. Football is awesome, and there are incredible hits that knock guys out and create interceptions. But they have a few gripes. Number one, with the new rules in place, most hits are not legal anymore. So the Jack Tatums of the world, the Doug Planks of the world, the Gary Fencicks of the world, the Ronnie Lotts of the world, your world in football is long gone. So these snowflake rules for football have really softened up the sport. Second, they say only a few guys are capable of really laying someone out. Compared to hockey, where everyone is tough, there are a lot of guys that shy away from big contact. In fact, one of the guys that told me that football was tougher than hockey, well, let's face it, he's a defensive back. He played defensive back for a bunch of years in the NFL. He wasn't really a big hitter in the first place. So how could he even say that when he's watching the big linebackers and whatnot and the edge rushers, watching those guys, the big D linemen, make all the big hits when he wasn't even a part of that. He was just watching it. So how can you even say that if you weren't a part of it? So the reality is hockey players, everyone is tough. And of course, third, Bleacher Report says they're only moving so fast. Sure, they're incredible athletes, but it does not take place on ice moving at 25 miles an hour. So they said they hope that was convincing enough, but they know that it will be taken to be burned at the stake by the football gods. What they go home with, the title of loser to the Canadians. Ouch, is what they say. Anyway, so the winner is hockey with the hardest hits. The most bone crushing hits. According to Bleacher Report, why did they win? They say, congratulations, hockey fans. You have the biggest and hardest hitters in the sports world. What separates hockey from the rest of the degree of difficulty to skate at the speed at which they do and navigate the puck, which you put your head down for a few seconds and you get leveled, plain and simple. Now, we see this all the time, folks. They continue on with this a chess game when it comes to hitting. Everyone is gunning for the star, and there are players brought in to protect them. Those are called the goons. Then hurt the other guy's team's top gunners. So they move so fast and are so strong that when two guys collide, it's electrifying. Hockey hits are a game within a game and can happen at any time when you least expect it. So Bleacher Report says what they go home with the title of the sports world's hardest hitters and some much needed respect. Kind of like that. That's fun. And you know the interesting thing, when I talk hockey with our NHL rules analyst for ESPN Hockey, Dave Jackson, he even said, look, you put your head down for just a moment and the wheels can completely come off. So we were talking about the hit that Connor Bedard got hit by Brandon Smith, which basically shattered his jaw. And Bedard had his head down for just a split second, and it was a clean hit. And a shoulder hit Connor Bedard, rookie superstar for the Chicago Blackhawks, and it knocked him out of the game and out for about 2 months. And again, his head was down for just a moment, and he got drilled in open ice. There was no boards involved, none of that stuff. No. This happens every game. There's some kind of a big hit or series of big hits, and sometimes when the superstar gets hit, what will happen is the goons will come out, and they'll protect the little guy. So sometimes you'll see on the top line, you'll see a superstar, a great winger, and then you'll see an enforcer as a winger. So that'll be the big guy up there to protect the little guys that are right close to the action. Or you might see a big goon as a defenseman paired up with a very good defenseman. So this way you have one good defenseman out there, then you got a goon out there protecting your little people. But this happens every game, folks. I mean, there are huge hits in hockey. And I'm not saying that football doesn't have big hits, because they do. But they don't have the hits like they used to have with the guys that I mentioned before, like Ronnie Lott or Jack Tatum or Doug Plank or Gary Fensick, big guys like that, the Jack Lamberts of the groups, et cetera, the big hitters. So you ask yourself, why has football become so soft? Not really sure about that. I mean, hockey players, look, they're going to do what they're going to do. Football players have a lot of protection on. Hockey players have some protection, but the speed in which the game is played is so different. So for everybody listening in the southern half of the U.S., look, back in the day, you never really had too much hockey. But now, even down in Florida, you got 2 hockey teams in Tampa and one down in the greater Miami markets. And they're both very, very good hockey teams. So at the end of the day, look, even in the desert, in Vegas, we've got hockey here. We have the Stanley Cup champion, Vegas Golden Knights. And we also have hockey being played where? In Arizona. In Los Angeles, we've got 2 teams in the greater LA market. So hockey is even down in Texas, right, with the Dallas Stars, which were the Minnesota North Stars as they moved. The point is, folks, hockey is widespread at this point, and the league is not done expanding. Whereas football, you wonder, how come the league hasn't expanded and or potentially taken or merged, I should say, with the teams from the CFL. So the Canadian Football League, they've got 8 teams, and they've been doing it for a long time. And I would argue that the Canadian Football League has bigger hits and more football that I think a lot of people are sort of used to versus the National Football League. Why do I say that? First of all, the field is bigger. We like that. More speed, more everything. But also, you've got to go for it. I mean, we don't have this, you can call a fair catch on a kickoff. No. You've got to field that ball and you've got to run that ball. So a collision is going to happen. So you may recall, arguably the greatest kickoff returner in National Football League history is Devin Hester from the Chicago Bears. And Devin Hester belongs to the Hall of Fame because he did what? He changed the game. In fact, you say, well, how did he change the game? Devin Hester on his kickoff returns was so dangerous, and the league said, well, you know what? This guy's returning a lot of these things, a lot of these kickoff returns, these punt returns, all this other stuff. On the kickoffs, we're going to move the kickoff up 5 yards. That's why we see so many touchbacks. We don't see the ball ran out as frequently. Hester was returning them so frequently. I mean, clearly it's the most exciting play in football, but they've taken that away, being the powers that be, and they don't want guys doing what Devin Hester did. I don't know if it's an attempt to fix the games a little bit more or less. I don't even know, but I think the games are fixed. Sorry, folks, they are what they are. We see it every week in and week out, and you ask yourself, wait, what just happened here? So the league moves the kickoff line up 5 yards. Now you have touchbacks all the time, and now you can have fair catches on these things as well, which I think is the complete pussification of the game. It's Snowflake Central out there playing the National Football League. You don't see the big hitters. You don't see the excitement that the Oakland Raiders used to have on the field, the Pittsburgh Steelers had, the Bears, the Monsters of the Midway had. You don't see that kind of stuff anymore. Now you see a finesse game. I mean, look, even when it comes to the Pro Bowl and all that, what do you have? You got flag football now, folks. Flag football being played by NFL players. What kind of garbage is that? Oh, it's for player safety, and this one gets injured and that one gets injured. Well, guess what? When Damar Hamlin went down on a basic football play, we all saw this on national television. And it was with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. And luckily, Damar Hamlin ended up being okay, etc. But at the end of the day, you take a guy like Hamlin and you look at how he went down. He wasn't savagely hit by anybody. That was a regular football play, just like you'd see in practice, just like you'd see in the course of a game. And so you say, are the football players as tough as they once were? I'm going to argue that they absolutely are not. Are the hockey players just as tough? You're damn right they are. The hockey players are out there doing it every game. And are the rugby players just as tough? I would say yes, they are. So in fact, what should have come in third place, in my opinion, would be the National Football League, and football doesn't have the bone-crunching hits that rugby has, and of course hockey would maintain that top position. Sorry, folks, if you watch enough of this stuff, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You draw your own conclusion. Go watch the hardest hits from the National Hockey League, and if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, check out my profile, Sal Tuzzolino. I have the nice blue check right by the profile. Check out a post that I put. I'm a public figure on there. You can check out my stuff. Go ahead and check out that, and you see if that post for bone-crushing hard hits from hockey are not the hardest things that you've seen, hardest hits in professional sports. And if you don't think so, leave your comment as to why. Frankly, I don't give a damn, because you know what? Hockey is the toughest sport to play, and I'm a former baseball player. All right, folks, we'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196. Paid for by Legal Alert Line.